Well, good morning. Welcome back to GP Outdoors. We're going to see if we can make a little progress on the side of the driveway here. Let me give you a quick recap if you haven't been following along. This section of driveway follows a sharp 90-degree turn into the cottage. I had 2 maple stumps here. We felled those trees, got lots of good firewood out of it. Then we had to remove the stumps, and with the help of my neighbor Ralph and his small BX23S, we got them out. And I'm left with a lot of debris and rubble, a lot of boulders and stones. I can't finish the job right now because you may recall we had a snapping turtle. She laid her eggs in my pile of gravel, so I can't touch that gravel for probably another 45 to 60 days until those little flippers hatch. You saw that I already removed some pretty hefty big boulders out of this pile, but we're still left with a lot of smaller rocks and boulders that we need to get out of here before we do any gravel work. Let me explain. Many of you might think that it's a good idea to leave these big boulders here underneath my driveway to help give it support in a base. And you're right, to some degree. From what I've learned over the years, and on the advice of my excavator, having some of these big, large boulders well down below grade is a good idea. Having them this close to the surface, all bad. Because we have some pretty deep, harsh, cold winters, we get a deep freeze and a thaw cycle every winter and spring. Boulders or rocks like this that sit too close to the surface will eventually be pushed up out of the surface. So you don't want them hanging around on top. And my implement of choice today, not my bucket, the old Rake Grapple. Let me explain why. It's not just because I don't have a lot of good skills using the bucket, but when you use a bucket to dig, you're going to get all of the earth or the ground along with the rocks. Hard to get them up and flip them in because I'm not that good at it, but I'm also taking away material away from the hole. I don't want to take the earth out, I just want the rocks out. But the nice thing about using the grapple is I'm able to get them, or at least separate them, but not take all of the earth with it. So I think here's the plan today. I'm going to take my time, it's a beautiful day, but what I really want to do is be able to rake all of these larger boulders or rocks out of this pit of sand and earth. I want to get them out. I'll most likely have to hand bomb most of them into the back carryall on the tractor because they're just too small for the tines or the spacing of the tines on my grapple. They'll fall through and I won't get much. So I'll do a little bit of pushing. Most likely I'll be extending the claw a lot to drag backwards because again, nothing here is entrenched or stubborn. It's all loose debris. So in that type of an application, back dragging, so to speak, with the jaw of the grapple is not a problem. It'll handle it no trouble. At least that's the plan. Let's get her done. see that? Right here. There's a big rock. Probably another big, huge flat one like one of the ones that I pulled out earlier. This is why you see that whenever I'm pushing through the ground or I'm dragging, I do it very slowly. I'm in low gear, 4-wheel drive, and I just take my time. You never push through at a fast speed, because as soon as I caught it, did you see my loader arms? Even at that low speed, as soon as I felt that opposition, I knew to stop. And I could see it starting to lift more ground than I wanted it to. So I knew that on one side of the grapple, I had an enormous opposing force and nothing on the other side. That's why I stopped, lifted, went back, and dragged beside it. Because I'll leave it down there. When it's that big, I have no idea how far into the driveway it goes. I'd rather leave it. I have to tell you, having a tractor on the property has made my life a whole lot easier, but it doesn't mean that it'll do everything for you. It'll do the heavy lifting, but every once in a while you're still gonna have to get that shovel or that rake out. A few of you have questions. Well, on those first initial passes, as I was dragging backwards to kind of loosen up the soil and bring some of the rocks back, I had a little bit of down pressure on that loader. For the last several passes, I'd bring it in, dig my teeth in, and then I'd put the loader in float. And then I'd drag backwards. One really important note I've learned is that whenever you're curling your bucket or your grapple forward, especially if you're going to be back dragging, you never fully extend your curl cylinders and then dig it into the ground or onto the ground and start pulling backwards. Because basically what happens is all of the force or the opposing force of any objects you hit are, I believe, fully or almost fully borne by those cylinders alone. And the loader arms don't help it. So you'll notice when I curl forward, I always leave a little bit of a gap. I don't fully extend. I bring it back a bit. Then I drag. Oh man, thank goodness I'm in the shade. It is stinking hot out there in the sun. I want to get some of these big roots out. That dump trailer would have been nice. I think we're in good shape. Let me show you the plan. If you remember initially, as we went through the last few videos on this, we removed the stumps, and all I wanted to do was just finish this off and grade this back with gravel here on the end of the driveway. But hey, as you folks always see on the videos, this is where I park all of my trailers, right in here. There's actually a rock shelf that comes through this area. That's why you saw me starting to scratch with the grapple a little bit outside of it and more over into this area. Because I think it just makes sense to gravel this whole area and put a pad down. That way I've got a proper pad for my trailers. It's sitting on top of a rock shelf, so I know the ground is reasonably solid. Well, it's solid. Plus, it gives me a wider turn around this sharp driveway so that my daughters and anybody else that's visiting has a more easier way of getting around it, especially in the wintertime. And I guess it looks like I'm gonna need another truckload of gravel, because even if I wait for the turtles, there's not enough in that pile to do all of this. And I think I probably need a good 4 to 6 inches down. I think my Rake Grapple did its job. It gets a lot of these bigger boulders out, the larger roots, and a lot of the organics or the smaller roots, it'll rip them out. Some of it was already ripped out, some of it the grapple will grab and dig out. One drawback, of course, which I don't know if it's a drawback, but the tines are about 6 inches apart. And that's why you'll see that I was hand bombing all of those smaller roots and those smaller stones or rocks, because it just falls through or in between the tines. But it definitely gets out the bigger stuff, and well, I imagine as I get a little bit better with the bucket as well as this, I might have been able to do most all of this without having to hand bomb anything. But she came out reasonably level. I got all the big stuff out. And from here, I'm gonna order up that load of gravel. Not sure how long it'll take them to get here. I've got a spot picked out in the forest to dump all these rocks and debris. And I think what I'll do today to finish up is I'm just gonna run the tractor over it several times to help start to compact it. And then over the coming days and weeks, anytime I run down the driveway, I'll just whip in and keep running over it so that by the time the gravel comes, it's reasonably well packed. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thanks for sticking around if you did. If you like the channel, please click subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want to know when I'm posting videos, just click that little bell. Have a great week with your families. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you again right here. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching GP Outdoors. Cheers.